Welcome to the Distance to Empty podcast, the podcast where we talk about 200 plus mile ultramarathons and multi-night events. I am your host, Kevin Goldberg, and as always, I'm joined by everyone's favorite co-host, Peter Noyes. We have the pleasure of being sponsored by Janji and Mount to Coast. We will chat quite a bit about those brands later in the episode, but if you are looking for awesome shoes to go the 200 plus mile distance, check out Mount to Coast, T1 and H1, or if you're going long on the road, check out the R1. And if you're looking for activewear, clothing, jackets, shorts, tops, belts, all sorts of apparel and gear to last you 200 plus miles and beyond, check out Janji. How's that for an ad read, Peter?
It was beautiful.
Yeah, we don't usually sound so official. But you know what? We might have some new listeners this episode because we tend to get some new listeners on our preview episodes. So if you're a new listener, thanks for being here. If you're an old listener, thanks for being here as well. Yeah, this is our Mammoth 200 preview episode. Peter, are you running it?
Sadly, no. I mean, I was excited when this came out, but I have a work conflict that just is inescapable. So I am not, but you are.
I am. Yeah, I guess I am. I'm running it with my wife, Melanie. It is starting the day before our 11-year wedding anniversary. So we'll be out there running 200 miles for our anniversary. What a better way to spend it.
Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. So how's things in your life? I heard you stopped running and your coach fired you.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it. But no,
and then you got a return to running plan and you've already cheated on yourself.
I can still do 5 this week. It's still possible.
Okay. All right. Let's hold him to it, everyone. Peter's going to run 5 times this week, and then he's just going to up it a little each week for distance, and he'll be back in action, and we'll be ready to crush Salton Sea next year. We're in a team race. I can't have you letting me down.
No, I'll be good.
Yeah. Cool. Well, as we mentioned, this is our Mammoth 200 course preview episode. We had the awesome pleasure of being joined by the race director, Hilary Yang, who knows the course better than anyone at this point. No one has run it. I guess Sally McRae did preview it last year. Tim Tolfson has spent a lot of time out there. You know, we know Kyle, one of our subscribers, has done a bunch of training runs out there. Rachel Entrikin has done a bunch of training runs out there. So we've pulled together a bunch of knowledge from those people and from the race director, and we went through section by section to try to break down this beast for people who are running it here in a week or so, and also people who are curious about this race in the future. So let's get to our Mammoth 200 course preview. Hilary, welcome back to Distance to Empty. Thank you for joining us for this Mammoth 200 preview.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm excited. How are you feeling, Kevin?
I'm kind of scared. It's been a long time since I did a 200 that wasn't Cocodona. It's been a minute since I've done a 200 without pacers. So I don't know. It's been a minute since I've done a 200 this late in the season. I just feeling a little anxious about the whole thing, but I'm excited.
Is that the taper talking, or is that the did I train enough?
No, I definitely trained enough, and I love taper. I'm like the rare person who I'm pretty obsessed with tapering. I always feel good and happy to be tapering, but that just started for me today. So maybe I'm not feeling the good taper yet, but yeah, I'm excited. Melanie, my wife who's running it, is also excited. So we're getting ready, putting nutrition, all that fun stuff out. So it'll be here soon. You just said you're heading out to Mammoth tomorrow for Trail Fest this upcoming weekend, and then the 200 is, 10 days away?
Yeah, who's counting? Something like that.
Yeah, awesome. Well, we're excited to dive into this course preview with you. I'm excited because I have done probably the least amount of research I've done for my own race, so this will be very beneficial for me walking through the course. I could probably name one aid station.
Ow. Okay, all right.
I'm winging it. I'm really just winging this one. But we have some great questions in the course here, and let's just dive into it. So
let's rip.
Before we go into the section by section breakdown, can you give us just a brief overview of what the Mammoth 200 is? Because we find that a lot of people, obviously we're going to get a lot of listeners from this year's race, but also this will be a resource moving forward for people who are curious about the race. What is the Mammoth 200? How did it come to be sort of the elevator pitch for the race? total distance, gain, loss, what type of terrain to expect, just like a high level overview.
Yeah. So the Mammoth 200 is actually 214 miles right now.
Keeps getting longer.
It does keep getting longer. And I'll tell you why that is, but let me get through my elevator pitch first.
Sorry.
214 miles, 31,000 feet roughly of elevation gain and loss. Maximum altitude 11,053 feet at the top of Mammoth Mountain, and you hit that at the beginning and the end of the race. Average altitude of 8,100 feet. So similar to like Tahoe 200, I guess, for sort of average, but we do go high a couple times in the race. You know, it's a big, beautiful loop. And if you look at the profile, I did a fun little quiz a few months ago where I asked people if they thought it looked more like an ostrich, a llama, or a donkey. You know, opinions were mixed, but I think llama was the one it looked most like. Basically, you circumnavigate the Long Valley caldera, which was formed like hundreds of thousands of years ago when there was a big eruption in the Mammoth Lakes area, and it created this crater that is sort of what the Eastern Sierra and the Glass Mountains are now. And so we are circumnavigating that entire crater. And because of that, it's got all these cool like volcanic features. You've got the obsidian rock, you've got the sort of moon dusty parts, but then you've also got the ponderosa pines, you've got the alpine lakes, you've got the larches, you've got the babbling brooks, and then you've got the high desert sage. Rachel Entrican was out on the course last week, and I was helping shuttle her around a little bit, and she was just saying that the air smells amazing in the Glass Mountains, and it really does. It smells like sage the whole way. I'm not even exaggerating. And it's also like sneaky hard through that section. So, you know, if you're looking at the course as a whole, I'd say you got like big climb up to the top of the summit, your high point of elevation, you drop down, and I'm just giving like a general summary. Drop down, you got some beautiful lakes, you kind of roll your way around to the Glass Mountains, and then you have this sort of like runnable grade double track, but you're like surrounded by beautiful mountains. You're in the sage, you're in the high desert part. It's quite exposed. That's where you need your gaiters. That whole section is just sort of really interesting, and you're looking at the White Mountains. There's a little bit of snow on the tops of those. It's just like a cool area. Nobody goes in the Glass Mountains. It is like dead quiet back there. And so I actually think that section is really fascinating. Rachel thinks it's the section where everyone's going to blow up. So if you're running this race and you're planning on running more than you're hiking it, be warned, the Glass Mountains will eat you up and spit you out. As you get into like Crater Mountain, you get close to Lee Vining. Again, it's that like really interesting kind of moon dusty, you're almost on the top of Mars feel. You drop down to Mono Lake. You've got the tuffas there. You've got the vast expanse of Mono Lake. You hit Lee Vining. It's an awesome reset. We're in the community center there. So it's one of our indoor aid stations. Great chance to just like eat some real food and reset. And then you start looping back to where you started from. So then you are back on the Eastern Sierra side and you're going through the lakes again, and you go through Silver Lake, Walker Lake, Grant Lake. Beautiful section. I think Rachel said that was one of her favorite parts of the course, from Lee Vining over to June Mountain. Just like really pretty single track, like with all these lakes below you. You hit June Mountain and you go up a steep ass cat track for 2 miles out of the aid station. And I went up it the other day with Katie Asmuth, and we both looked at each other and went, oh my gosh, this is like 30% grade in places. But it's only 2 miles. You level out, you drop back down to June Lake. You, just like roll on over to the Obsidian Dome area, up to the Inyo crater. Again, that volcanic theme. Up to Minaret Vista, which is just a few miles below the summit, but you still have to go all the way back up to 11,000 feet. You get up there, you get to do a 360-degree view of everything that you have just done, which I think is a pretty cool way to reflect on the entire race experience. And then you drop down a shorter trail than the one you went up at the beginning of the race, down to the village. And that's the end of your 214-mile journey. Yeah, it's an epic.
Sounds pretty easy.
Yeah, totally.
And we just got through it in like, no time.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I have not explored the Glass Mountains at all, but I'm obsessed with the Sierra. The small taste I've gotten from the Eastern Sierra is just amazing. So I am really excited to explore this course. It's been, I mean, the moment you guys announced it, I was pretty much on board. Let's dive into a section by section sort of description and run through each section here. If possible, we're gonna like rank each section on a scale of 1 to 5. So 1 being super easy, a lot of paved, and relative to the rest of the race, super easy. So not like kind of like ski slopes, right? Easiest way down, hardest way down. So 1 being maybe fire roads, not too much vertical gain, or paved. and then 5 being gnarly, steep, up and down, single track, technical, that sort of things. To start, we've got Village to Summit 1, 9.3 miles, 3,200 feet of up, just 200 feet of down. From the elevation profile, looks like a pretty steady climb the whole way, maybe a little gentler for the first 2/3 and then steep up to Mammoth Mountain. What can you tell us about this section to kick off the race, and why such a brutal start?
I mean, why not? Obviously, you got to give this like a 4 on the scale of difficulty, just not because it's necessarily super technical. You are going up kind of the mountain hiking trails, but more to the fact that you're going up to 11,000 feet. It's early on in the race. There's not a lot of warm up. You do get to sort of go on the downtown trail, which is like a part of the downhill route for a lot of the Trail Fest shorter races. It's really flowy. It is nice. So it's a nice chance to just sort of trot along. But if you're running hard on the stuff, like I highly don't recommend it. I think this is a race to really like ease into it and enjoy the hiking part of it. We actually extended our cutoff for the summit by an extra hour to give people a little bit more time to get up there. We didn't extend the cutoff for the next section. So you just have to know if you take that full time to get up to the summit, that you got to roll yourself down the hill a little bit faster if you want to stay on track. But we did want to make people feel like they're not rushed to get up to the summit for the beginning of the race, because that feels like a shitty way to start your day. So yeah, I would say 4, just because of the altitude. Obviously, you never know whether you're going to get up there. It's always a little windier. You're just sort of dealing with all of that. So it's a kick in the pants start to the race, but I also think it's so pretty up there. And you really, in the same way that at the end of the race, you get to see everything you've just done, at the beginning of the race, you get to see everything you're going to do. So it kind of sets up the whole race, in my opinion.
Cool. And then this next section looks like it could be challenging for other reasons. You're dropping down, but that it's 9 miles, 700 feet of gain, but 3,100 feet of loss. And it looks like the first couple miles is well over 1,000 feet that you're dropping and then flowing. So how about this one?
So, this one, you're going down the Dragon's Back. It's the reverse of the 50K and the 26K course for Trail Fest. It is probably one of the most technical sections of the course. It is proper single track. It's pretty rocky. Pick your feet up. It's like you want to run it, but you also have to be careful not to beat your quads up, especially in that first few miles. Like it's a proper sort of mountain technical descent. And I would just say, just sort of be aware, don't burn yourself out, but you have to kind of be able to run it as well. Like you can't just hike down the whole thing. And so, yeah, I think it's a bit challenging for that because you are trying to preserve your legs as much as possible. It's also beautiful. So take in the views as you go down. Hopefully you're feeling better as you lose a bit of altitude. I would also give this section like a 4 or 4.5, even though it's like a lot of downhill, just because I think how you manage it will influence like your race later.
Yeah, that's a lot of total elevation change in just 9 miles. 40, 200. Yeah, so there's no way that's easy, even if it is all down. And yeah, especially being that early, you could definitely make some mistakes there. So moving through the next section, Duck Pass to Sherwin Creek. One thing that's interesting about this race compared to other 200s that we've done is, we're approaching the 50K mark here once we get to Sherwin Creek. And so far the aid stations have been 9 miles apart, just under 14 miles apart. Like I think most people who run 200s are used to traveling, especially early in these races, like 15, 20 miles without aid. So it's really cool to have this much support on the course. And I know when we covered the race earlier this year, like that was a big selling point of like, hey, this is going to be a really well supported 200. So it's cool to see that in the numbers. Again, me kind of looking at this for sort of the first time. Yeah, so 13.75 miles to Sherwin Creek. Looks like mostly downhill on the section 2, plus 1,600, negative 3,200. This is also the first aid station going into Sherwin Creek, which I think is like 32 miles that you're going to get to see your crew. So could you speak to this section, what it's like, and then how crew friendly this aid station is, or any tips or tricks for crew who might be listening?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, to your point, Kevin, this whole race, we've really tried to make sure the runners are supported. This is on the longer end of sections. I think a couple of them creep up towards 14 miles, but we're pretty cognizant of not going over that as far as just like water access or aid access. You're continuing to go downhill for a while on this trail. You hit the Mammoth Rock Trail, which is really nice. You get 5 miles of like flowy single track. I'd say it's a section to just enjoy. Like it's beautiful. I think the first 50K of this course are its flagship. It's part of the Trail Fest courses for a reason. It's just really, really pretty. And I mean, this section is quite historic. If you look at the kind of descriptions that Tim wrote up, it's kind of cool to like learn a little bit more about how Mammoth Lakes even began. You kind of get these views of town. It's like a little bit different. You're not quite in that like alpine of the beginning of the course, but it's still like just really nice single track. So you got that, you got a little climb, and then another little descent into Sherwin Creek. And yeah, you see your aid there. It's a busier trailhead on the weekends. And we will be going through there on Friday, so hopefully not so busy. But I would just say for crew, just be mindful of other trail users, all the things of kind of just having good trail etiquette. But it is, I think, a good chance for everybody to do a little reset. I believe Tim's parents are manning the aid station out there. And so actually they're doing the first couple aid stations. So this is a very much a labor of love thing, but they're really excited, and it's their first time being aid station captains for something like this. So I think you're in good hands. We're going to have sort of more typical aid station fare at the first few aid stations, as far as like sodas and chips and watermelon stuff, but not really getting into a ton of hot food options until we get later on in the race. So just for people that are sort of listening to this, like, the meal stuff is going to come later. This is more sort of what you'd expect. Bars, Never Second is our nutrition partner. And so we're going to have their mix. We're going to have, I think, either 30 gram or 60 gram at all the aid stations for the carb mix. And so you'll sort of have a lot of that. And I would recommend just like easing your stomach into things, especially coming from altitude at the top of the mountain. You're probably not feeling super hot. So be good to your stomach. Try to shove a lot of heavy stuff in there quite yet. Just sort of focus on staying fueled and not bonking at all. But yeah, I think it's a beautiful section.
I'm excited for the.
It's like a 3 on the difficulty.
3,
yeah.
Nice. I'm excited to talk about the later food to come at different sections.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear Never Second. That's been my gel of choice. So
yeah, we got lots of them. So yeah, really excited to have them on board as our nutrition partner. They also have a discount code for everyone running the Mammoth. You can get 25% off. I've been putting it in all the runner emails, but make sure you take advantage of that if you have not yet.
And I think when I used Never Second, I think they ship pretty quick. So if we get this out tomorrow, there may still be time.
Get on it. Or you can use them for recovery, although you'll probably be tired of them by then.
All right. So this next section is Sherwin Creek to Convict Lake. It is 8.5 miles with 600 up, 500 down. And there's a stretch here that's flat in the middle. So to me, this looks like an easier section and a nice break.
Totally. I would say so. It's definitely less technical. You're out of the single track. You're into more double track kind of gravel road, but it's still really beautiful, that whole area. And I would say enjoy that like flat, just sort of cruiser section while you can. As you climb up towards Convict Lake, you've got Mount Morrison in front of you, and it's really interesting. Like I don't know if you've been back to Convict Lake, but the rock there is like banded in layers of like reds and silver, and it's really distinctive. There's a ton of larches and aspens around that area. And so that it's just like really, really pretty this time of year as they're all just starting to turn towards those fall colors. So you get a nice climb into Convict Lake there. It can be exposed. So, making sure that you have lots of water with you, that you're sort of managing that. I'd say that's the biggest challenge of that section, but I would give it like a 2.
Nice. Yeah, I'm excited. I've done some backpacking in the Sierra in the fall, and we'll dive into weather a bit later and what it's looking like. Too soon to really tell, but it's looking like it's going to be chilly and really beautiful, and like what I love about that area in the fall.
Totally.
Cool. So it looks like another pretty chill section on tap after Convict Lake. So we're going Convict Lake to Crowley Lake. I like the theme of just connecting lakes. This one's just under 13 miles, plus 800 down, 1500. Looks like flattish to rolling, pretty good descent, and then maybe some like flattish to rolling uphill. And a longer stretch for this race, at least.
Yes, it is, but it's, I think, fairly runnable. So when Sally McRae did her test run for us last year, I paced her for this section and then the next section into the Glass Mountains. And it was really nice and just sort of like easy miles in a lot of ways. Running around Convict Lake is beautiful. Like you're running on boardwalk, and it's a cool little 3-mile loop. You get your feet wet coming out of there at Convict Lake. And so that is something to note for runners, is like, yeah, you are getting wet there. So take it as you will, whether you decide you want to deal with the shoe change at the next aid station or whatever. But it's one of the few places on course you cannot avoid the creek crossings. But yeah, it's, a lot of double track. But again, you're sort of skirting the side of the Eastern Sierra there with like this whole kind of mountain view on the flank and with the lakes around you. So it's really pretty. And you drop into Crowley, and that's where you have your first station. And that will be also an indoor aid station. That will be at the Crowley Community Center. It's really cool. We have got 3 indoor sleep stations, which I'm really stoked on. I'm proud of. I thought it was a really nice feature at Cocodona being out there this past year. I hadn't realized that they had more sort of indoor access, and I think it's just a really good thing in the event of weather or whatnot, just to be able to offer runners more. So yeah, we'll be set up there. We'll have some cots set up if you want to take a nap, or you can, nap with your crew. Just notes for the residential areas of Crowley and Lee Vining are that we're asking runners to respect quiet hours from like 9 p.m. till 7 a.m., which just means no cowbells, no like giant whoops and hollers as people are kind of coming into the aid station, mostly from your crews. And that's just us working with the communities and sort of like wanting them to feel like we're not going to be too disruptive. And I think as we get this race going, they're going to get really excited about it and get on board. But especially for year one, we want to make a good impression. And you do run right through town, just a short little bit to get to the community center, and you sort of do an out and back from the community center. And Lindsay Tollefson, Tim Tollefson's wife, and co-star extraordinaire and everything, is going to be running the first sleep aid station there.
Awesome. I assume blasting Taylor Swift on a Bluetooth speaker does not count, as that's okay.
I mean, 9 a.m., not 9 p.m. You're good.
Okay, perfect.
So run faster, Kevin.
Yeah, I can do that.
Oh, and
Awesome.
I will say the one cool part about this course is there's some really cute little general stores and communities that you go through. And I would recommend to crews to take full advantage of these stops. The Crowley Lake General Store does fresh pizzas, like baked goods, coffee, and they're really sweet. And they're open till like 9 or 10 p.m. or something like that. So sort of like for the crews, do your research on these little towns. Like Lee Vining has the Wonelli Deli. June Lake has a bunch of little like cute delis in town. And don't be afraid to sort of take advantage of these spots because they're all great. They're all sort of mountain town vibes, but Crowley's got a good one there.
Awesome. Well, if you're listening, Ashley, Brittany, and Cole, I will take pizza, sandwiches, and all things from those places. Please and thank you.
Put your order in now.
Yeah, I'm putting it in now. So would this be like another 2, you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, 2.5.
Nice. And the crew, I mean, I assume it being a sleep station, pretty easily crew accessible. Sounds like it's in a town, easy to get to, parking and all that stuff.
Yeah, it's 5 minutes off the 395. So super easy to just get off there. It's like literally across the street from the general store. So.
For runners, any runners who are running unsupported, are there any stores like that are easily accessible from the course? And is it okay for them to go into those stores while they're racing?
It's a good question. Tim and I have not set an official policy on that, but I would say as long as if something like the Crowley Lake General Store, if you were able to just like go there on foot and stop, or Tom's Place, that seems like it's totally fair game. I would say anything where you have to get in a vehicle to leave the course and come back would be something we're not doing. That's not a Cocodona style thing. So, but yeah, if it's right there and you can pop in, fair game. Good question. Very good question.
No, that's good clarity. The last race I did, that was ambiguous, and that became a topic after. So it's good to get the clarity around that.
Totally. Yeah. I think for our race, if you leave the course and you get in you drive away in a vehicle, then you've sort of entered into different territory. So yeah.
So the next section is Crowley Lake to Tom's Place. It's a short section, just under 6 miles, 1,000 feet up, 800 feet down. But this course profile looks a little insane. A lot of quick up and down in here, punchy. And there's also something about sheepdogs. So yeah, I'd love to get into that.
Yeah, totally. So this section, yeah, you're in sort of a basin when you drop into Crowley. And so you have to climb out of the basin. And it's like sort of, if you've been to Bishop area, it's like the kind of cool, distinctive granite bouldery stuff of the Bishop area. It's very classic Sierra, but it is quite sandy. And so I think that adds to the degree of difficulty. It's definitely like you're hiking out of the aid station through that climb. The sheepdog and just sort of general wildlife around that area is definitely more active. On the sheepdog front, we are working with the people that have the sheepdogs out there to understand if they will be near the course. There's been all sorts of conversations about whether we needed to do a reroute, whatever. As of right now, no need for it. It doesn't sound like they're going to be like of concern to us. But I would just say if you see any large Pyrenees looking dogs near any sheep, don't pat them. Don't try to take them home with you. Don't think that they're a stray. they're probably going to be pretty protective. So it's pretty common sense, but the sheepdog piece is something that we were definitely tasked with communicating to runners, just like, hey, if you see one, don't engage, keep your distance, treat it like you would a bear, even though it looks like a cute, fluffy, large dog.
Yeah, they're working. They're busy.
They are busy. They
Yeah.
are watching sheep sleep.
Yeah. I was told we'd see sheepdogs at Wyoming Range just this early this summer, and I didn't see any. So this is maybe my second chance here.
I think if you don't see any, it's not a bad thing, Kevin.
Okay.
It's fine. If you don't see
Okay.
them, just look it up later. But
Okay. I have 2 dogs of my own. I can just look at them.
yeah. No, it's interesting. I mean, even Hard Rock, there's always like sheep up on that course. And I know they come through, around the race and stuff. So I think it's like something that other races deal with. So yeah, it's definitely for us, just be mindful and don't interact. And so you drop over to Tom's place after all these like fun little punchy up and down climb things. And Tom's place is water only. So just sort of know that from Crowley to Green Church is actually, 15.7 miles to your next full aid. And so Tom's is just water. Most people will hit it at some point during the night. The back of the pack will hit it in the morning on Saturday. Tom's place, when it's open, if it is open when you go through there, is a great resource. They're really sweet there, but I would say plan on just having a water refuel, but having enough food and gels and all the things to get you to Green Church. You go through a tunnel to go under the 395. That's kind of fun. Sally called it the lion's den. I definitely found it was a little creepy. So I plan on putting some lights in there for anybody that's going through it. Just because I think Sally and I spent the whole way through the tunnel freaking each other out. There was something in there. There wasn't. Tim said he's gone through it a million times. There's never been anything in there, so it's fine. But we are going to put some lights in there overnight. But yeah, it's sort of interesting because then you're on the other side of the 395 and you sort of crossed into the uncharted Glass Mountain section from the Eastern Sierra, which is much more populated and touristed, as like relatively speaking. And you go over the Crowley Lake Dam, which is another area. Again, we've had lots of challenges with the permits, and one of them has been that the dam has been closed for construction and is literally going to reopen next week. And we're in constant communication to find out exactly when, and if it's not fully reopened, there'll be like a safe passage that they're going to create for the runners to go over it. But I will note for crews here, and I put this in the crew driving directions, do not drive that way when you are going from Crowley to Green Church to see your runner, even if Google Maps tells you it's a shorter way to get there. On paper, it looks shorter. It is closed to traffic. It's a huge part of our permit that you don't go that way. So you have to go back out onto the 395 and then go north towards Mammoth Lakes and take the Benton Crossing Road at Green Church to access the Green Church aid station. So it's in the crew driving directions. I just feel like I need to reiterate it that it's runners only over the dam. And you hit the dam and you kind of climb up from there to just before where you see your crew at Benton Crossing Road. I would say I also give this section like, I don't know, maybe 2.5. A lot of the stuff in this next section is similar as far as the terrain underfoot, but I also don't want to underestimate it because it's still, it's hard terrain, like it's hard to run in well. I think it like takes a bit more energy, some of this like sandy stuff. And so I don't want to like diminish that. It's not like running on a road. You are still running on trail. It's just not as technical.
Yeah, that Sierra sand, it doesn't even take much of it to like just, even if it's like dead flat, it just kind of sucks some energy to actually do that running motion in. So certainly not to be underestimated.
Sneaky.
So that's that's Crowley Lake to Green Church. So it's about 16 miles with a water stop after about 6 miles. So you're looking at a total for that 16-mile stretch of like 2,200 up and 1,600 down. Are the water stations unmanned?
Yes.
Okay.
It's just going to be a table with big jugs on it that we will keep an eye on a refill.
Okay. Just a side note, I remember the unmanned water stations the year I ran Moab 240 all froze. So keep an eye on that if it's cold.
Touche. As of right now, we're just above freezing overnight, but that is funny and worth noting.
So, but even if worst case, I mean, people can carry water for 15 miles if they need to, but it's super nice to have those drops. So that's awesome.
If it's freezing, you don't need water.
That's true. Totally. Just don't drink. You don't need water or calories if it's cold. Everyone knows that.
Yeah, great. Perfect.
It's just common sense. Don't listen to us for advice. That's not what we're here for. All right. I forget if it was my turn or not, Peter, but I'll go. Green Church to Sawmill Meadow. This looks like a hard section. It's 14 and a half miles. 3,500 feet of up, nearly 2,000 feet of down. And just to give us like a distance check, we're like 60. Oh no,
Yeah,
we're
that
like
would be 7. Yeah,
70.
because Sawmill Meadow is mile 84.
Yeah, so we're like, this is mile like 70 to 84 ish. So we're getting deep into this thing. For most runners, we're probably, into the second day here on Saturday. Yeah, what can you tell us about this section? It looks hard on paper. That looks like a big climb.
I think this is Rachel's pick for the section that people will blow up on.
Okay.
Be noted. Yeah, like 3,000 feet of climbing is no joke, and that's only over like what 9 miles, 8 miles, and so I think just sort of knowing that you're grinding up this thing for a while. Again, it's double track, but the double track in the Glass Mountains is basically just like it's a large single track in the sense that there's no one else really going back there, and so it's you're just sort of like climbing a lot. It's sneaky hard. It's exposed. If you're going through there the day on Saturday, you're definitely going to be exposed. You might get some wind. You're just sort of like in the elements. Whatever we're dealing with, whatever the forecast is, pay attention to Saturday because you'll probably be moving through the Glass Mountains and you'll be very exposed and you'll have less water access. So yeah, gaiters I think are a must for this section, honestly, and good foot care, like especially because knowing that Sawmill Meadow is not a crew access aid station, which I'll get into in a second as to why that is, but just making sure you're sending socks ahead, you've got baby wipes, you're sort of setting yourself up to at least do a sock change, if not a shoe change, and just like get ahead of those feet issues. Yeah, I mean it's stunning. You're really on the edge of the caldera. And you can see ahead to Crater Mountain and to Lee Vining, and it's just sort of like you're kind of in a classic Glass Mountains part of the course. Once you kind of get up to the top of that climb, you're running along a Forest Service road for a few miles, and this is the section that prompted us to make it a not crew access aid station because it is like moon dust through there. And so the idea of having a bunch of vehicles go by runners for crew going in and out of there while you guys are going along there seemed awful. We put an amazing crew of people out there to take care of you guys. It's the second sleep aid station. They're all really experienced ultra runners. It's going to be a great little aid station. They've got lots of fun food options. I believe they're calling it the ramen aid station, and so lots of sort of noodle options. There'll be a gluten-free option and a vegan option as well, and they'll have like all the usual things for like tortillas, quesadillas, broth, mashed potatoes, kind of the never second selection of gels and all that, but they'll be fully kitted out. And there will be a sleep tent. It's going to be like a 10 by 10 tent with walls and some cots inside. And we'll kind of put it over as far away as we can from the rest of the activities so that you can go in there and take a nap if you need it. And yeah, I think it's a beautiful section, but like I said, it's just one of those sections that you'd have to know, like, don't burn yourself out, manage yourself well, really make sure that you're not coming in here feeling like you're pushing too hard or you're too depleted, because I think that's all going to catch up later if you don't manage yourself well through that section.
Got it. And then I assume that you have drop bags available here.
Yes.
Okay, so that's probably a critical drop bag
that's
for
a key
people.
drop bag, I would say.
And then what are you thinking the score is for this section? Is it
It's like a 4, I'd say, and not because it's technical. It's just because it's like that kind of pumicy terrain and the amount of climbing and the exposure. I think it's all going to sort of add up there.
Got it. Okay, then the next section is Sawmill Meadow to Taylor Canyon. This one is 13.9 miles with 1,900 feet of gain, 900 feet of loss. I think this gets you right around the 100-mile mark, and it looks like another punchy section, a lot of zigzag.
Yeah, but like a lot more downhill than uphill in this section, right? So I think that's definitely nice. You got a nice descent. You're on sort of Forest Service road for quite a bit of it, but they're really well maintained out there. And I'd say once you pass Sawmill Meadows, it gets a lot less sandy. And so it's a chance to just kind of open up and enjoy it. Like Rachel was saying she really enjoyed running that section. It's a chance to make up some time. And that's where if you haven't kind of burnt yourself out on the climb up to Sawmill Meadows, you can actually open up a little bit more and cruise, and it's sort of low consequence. It's nothing's like super crazy steep as far as like the downhills or the technicals. So it's not going to really beat you up. So I would say it's a nice section to sort of look towards for like, hey, if I'm feeling good, I can make up a little bit of ground here and sort of be a bit strategic with how I'm moving. Yeah, it's really pretty. Again, you've got views of the White Mountains. When you get out to Taylor Canyon, we've got the folks from Wonderland Running who are running that aid station, and they're a great crew, and they're really stoked to kind of support everybody. We put people in the Glass Mountains that really have a lot of experience with running these races, and the aid stations are remote, everything's remote. Cell phone coverage is patchy, but there is a surprising amount. It just sort of comes and goes. And so I found even when I was back there, like you go to send a text message, might take a few minutes and then it goes through type of thing. So, you can sort of like, you have some coverage, but it is fairly remote back there. Taylor Canyon is crew access. They access it from the 120. And you can either go from Lee Vining in on the 120 or from Mammoth Lakes. I think it's slightly shorter to go from Mammoth Lakes, but only by a few minutes. So it sort of depends on where your crew is. Just a note on that. It's sort of like spokes on a wheel, like the Mammoth course. And so I think being based in Mammoth, you can sort of access everything. And Taylor Canyon and Crooked Meadows and Crater Mountain are the farthest you get away from Mammoth Lakes. But a lot of the aid stations are within like 20-30 minute drive. And so depending on how long your runner's taking, it can be a nice place to go back and reset and all that in between. But yeah, Taylor Canyon, you can see your crew again, which is nice. And I would say it's just you want to feel good. If you feel good around there, I think you're pacing yourself well through the Glass Mountains.
What if you feel bad on like the first this first summit, like 9 miles in?
You will feel bad on that first summit. You're going up to 11,000 feet, Kevin. You just have to know it will get better as you go down.
Ooh, I have a hard time believing that. So at Green Church, so you have a 28 or so mile stretch before you see crew again at Taylor Canyon. You kind of answered this, but like, what's that drive look like from Green Church to Taylor? Would it make sense for like crews to go back to Mammoth and maybe get some rest or food themselves? Like, is that a good time for them to reset? Because they're probably going to have several hours to work with there.
Yeah, I totally think so. Because you're not seeing your runner at Sawmill Meadow and Green Church is not very far off the 395, I'd recommend like using that time to go back and do a reset, get gas, get whatever you need, just sort of like regroup. You've got some time. You probably have like 7 or 8 hours really before you're going to see your runner again. And so really sort of maximizing that and getting a nap is a good play. And then from Mammoth to get out to Taylor Canyon, I want to say it's probably about an hour, just over an hour, maybe an hour 10 to get out there. So it's not crazy. And you will have the trackers. You'll have a good sense of how your runner's moving and when you need to leave. The other option is could go up to Lee Vining or something like that and hang out. But that's a lot of extra driving considering you're sort of moving in that direction anyways. Like I would sort of say stay closer to Mammoth Lakes until you get up to Crater Mountain or Lee Vining area. And then you can sort of hover up in the Lee Vining area while your runner's going from aid station to aid station just to minimize some of the driving there. But yeah, it's a good access road. I've driven all of those roads and made sure like they're all 2-wheel drive accessible. I saw a Jetta going over like the worst part of the access towards the Inyo crater, and I was like, okay, well, if a Jetta can do it, like, so yeah, it's a pretty cruisy drive out for the cruise, just dusty.
Nice. Cool. Yeah, and that seems like pretty much by far the longest stretch without crew. There's a couple of upcoming water only aid stations that are not crew accessible, and then there's the final summit. But from here on to the finish, it's a lot of yeses in the crew column. So that brings us from Crooked Meadows. Are we Taylor Canyon to Crooked Meadows? We haven't done that one yet. So Taylor Canyon to Crooked Meadows is 10 miles, 1,300 up, 500 down. Looks like mostly uphill and then like a downhill finish on this section. Are we still in the Glass Mountains here?
Still in the Glass Mountains. You are on a dirt road. So again, it's like pretty cruisy terrain. I would say this is easier than the climb from Green Church up to Sawmill Meadows because it's not nearly as sandy. It's more like the packed kind of dirt. Yeah, you've got pretty views. You're sort of looking out at the Granite Mountains. And you're coming to the end of the Glass Mountains there. That's sort of the exit point for the Glass Mountains. Crooked Meadows is our third sleep aid station. It's only 10 miles from Taylor Canyon to Crooked Meadows too. So I would say for that one, like the biggest thing is, again, if your crew is following on Caltopo or whatever, it might look like they could just cut across to Crooked Meadows on the Forest Service roads. please don't do that. Some of that intersects with our course. You got to go back out to the 120 and go around to Crooked Meadows. And so I think that's just sort of important for all the crews as you do out and backs to the aid stations from the 120. Do not get cute and take shortcuts. Also, when I was out there course scouting, I tried to get cute and take a shortcut, and I ended up on a decommissioned road by accident, and honestly thought I'd have to get like a crazy tow job to get out of there. It was so gnarly. And so yeah, you can get into trouble. So all that to say, stay on the driving directions that we put in the crew manual. But yeah, you get to Crooked Meadows, and that is being hosted by Path Projects, which we're really excited about. And it's a really nice big space, lots of room, and they're totally going to pimp it out. They've got lots of fun things up their sleeve for you guys. I believe they're going to do a bunch of rice balls, and they've got some other food options they're still nailing down, but they have a good crew out there, and they're really stoked to be hosting that one. So yeah, that'll be the third sleep aid station. You have your crew. So unlike Sawmill Meadows, which was sleep aid station with no crew, you sort of have more options for what you want to do with your own sleep, but we will have cots and a tent set up if you want to go that route.
So it looks like that might have been a fast section, maybe taking people 2.5 hours. So crew probably needs to book it to get to Crooked Meadows, or
yeah, like you got time. Like I'd say it's 45 minutes to drive from Taylor Canyon to Crooked Meadows. So you're not like, please don't go bombing over there. Also, right before you come into the Crooked Meadows aid station, where you take the turn off, there's like a little bit of a blind hill that you go over to go into the aid station. So please be mindful. We would love to have no oncoming collisions there. We will sort of try to have some signage and like, yeah, make sure that the volunteers are kind of aware. But just as you're going into that aid station, be mindful that you just have to slow down quite a bit. But there should be plenty of parking around there. And I'm working with Mammoth Disposal to have porta potties at pretty much all of our aid stations. So we'll have nice, clean, fresh porta potties for you guys. It's like, how much off-roading can porta potties do? That is what I've been learning about this week.
All right, so the next section is Crooked Meadows to Indiana Summit, 8.6 miles, 500 feet of gain, 1,100 feet of loss. So this one just looks like it's a nice long downhill for the most part.
Yeah, Indiana Summit is a water only. So similar to the Tom's Place section, it's actually more of a 15-mile section with a water drop in the middle. So just sort of know that. The Crooked Meadows Indiana Summit part is really nice and pretty, and yeah, really soft. You've got pine needles underfoot, like you're sort of back in that like pine forest feel. It actually feels a little bit like Flagstaff. So Kevin, you're going to feel right at home with the Cocodona vibes. That whole area really does. It's sort of trippy. But I would also say just be careful with the footing, because the pine needles can be kind of slippery, and they can also sort of obscure what's underneath. And so do be mindful of that. Don't totally tune out through that section. And then when you go from Indiana Summit over to Crater Mountain, you are heading towards the base of Crater Mountain. It's sort of like this own little like distinctive like lump of mountains. And it's an interesting section, but make sure when you get to Crater Mountain that you refuel, because it's like a punchy climb up to Crater Mountain, and the footing is quite rocky, and it's the section that feels like Mars. And we'll get into it. Sorry, I'm kind of skipping ahead from Crater Mountain, but anyways, to Crater Mountain, quite lovely, quite runnable, nice and cushy pines, but also just be careful of your footing. Make sure you are hydrating, all the things. Maybe like a 2.5.
Yeah, no, this looks like a really nice, like nearly 17-mile section with less than 1,000 feet of up and like mid 2,000 feet down. Looks awesome. And that is we're finishing this up at mile 125. So you are well over halfway through at this point. And yeah, cool. Sweet. Next section is Crater Mountain to Lee Vining. So I think this has that climb that you were talking about. This looks like a tough section with maybe a long stretch of flat in it, if the elevation profile is to be believed. 15.25 miles, 1,800 up, 2,200 feet of down, and you're traveling from 125-ish to 140.6. Isn't 140.6 an Ironman? So you've done an Ironman after this.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Go for a swim in Mono Lake.
Done.
Hop on a bike. You're there.
I mean, I played basketball and golf during Cocodona this year, so I'm looking for extracurriculars out there, Hilary.
We could probably arrange a basketball hoop somewhere on the course, I gotta say. Yeah, no, this section is definitely interesting. It is the Mars section. It is very volcanic. I'd say the rock is quite sharp and you have to pick your way through. Like it'll be marked well, but it'll also feel like you're in a kind of boulder fieldy vibes, place. And depending on when you hit it, if you hit it in the middle of the night, like Billy and Sally did last year when they went through that section, he said it was really trippy and just sort of like this kind of dark expanse with all this rock. So again, the cool thing about the Mammoth course is that even though it's a loop, I feel like there's really distinctive sections and topography. And this is one of those sections where it's just like a very contained little bloop over the mountain, but it's very like unusual and different. Enjoy it, be careful not to hurt yourself going through it. And then as you come out of the kind of volcanic crater, you're coming down to Mono Lake, and that's where it flattens out and you're actually running along the side of Mono Lake. You pass by Panem Crater, and for crews, if you're looking for a little like outing, Panem Crater is just like a super sweet little 2-mile circumnavigation of a little tiny crater by Mono Lake, and we almost put it in the race because it's just really cool. But then also this race was getting so long, we were like, it's going to be a 250 if we're not careful. So we didn't. But if you're crew and you want to stretch your legs, it's beautiful. And you get to just like run around and look at Mono Lake. So kind of recommend that. But for everyone else, you just go by it and you head to Mono Lake and you get the tufas there. Super interesting, beautiful lake. And you're sort of connecting that over to the Lee Vining Community Center for your 4th sleep aid station at mile 140.6.
Cool. So this
I'd say the beginning of this section is like 3.5, and then it probably goes down to like 2. So net 3.
All right, this next section is Lee Vining to Grant Lake. I think this might be the longest stretch we've seen so far. It is 19.4 miles, 2,800 feet up, 2,400 down. It's got a couple peaks. There's nothing in here that sounds like it's too crazy, just long.
Yes, and since we made this, we did add a water drop, which is on the aid station overview. It's not in this description, but there is a water drop at mile 12, I believe. And so then you'd have 7 more miles after that to get to the aid station. But yeah, Lee Vining, I'll just note that aid station's being taken over by Arc'teryx, and they have a little crew out there. I believe we're gonna have grilled cheese at that aid station and potentially some tomato soup to go with it. So depending on how your stomach's doing, you can have a little fun meal out there. And then we'll also have all the sort of other like broths and things and eggs and burritos and tortillas and sort of sandwiches, all the rest of it. But I think grilled cheese sounds pretty awesome when you're 140 miles into a race. So anyways, sorry, that section, it's not super technical. You're sort of leaving Lee Vining. You do like a loop out on the Glass Mountain side before you cross over the 395. That is a major highway crossing, but it is also a really wide road with like you cross one direction and then there's sort of a divider in the middle and then you cross the other part of it. It's not super heavily trafficked, and we will have a crossing guard stationed there to make sure you guys get across safely. But just be mindful as that's the only like major road crossing. It is a highway, but it's also not a crazy highway. It's just, yeah. Got to get back over to the Eastern Sierra side, guys, and there's no tunnel over there. So, but yeah, anyways, you are kind of going around the Walker Lake area. There's a climb up past Walker Lake. You're looking down at the lakes. It's really pretty there. There is a gate that you go through, a locked gate. That is also a residential area where we've noted on the course map that just, again, to be mindful and quiet. There's some private property that we just skirt through there. And so that's why we sort of have permission to use it, but also want to be respectful as we go through it. The water drop at mile 12 to help save that section because it is a long section. But it's also beautiful. And that whole section was one of the sections that Rachel really enjoyed. You have like a really cruisy descent down into the Grant Lake aid station at the end of that. So kind of good, bitchy little climb, fairly rocky, I think, coming out of Walker Lake, and then a nice cruiser down to Grant.
Nice. And I think this next section is the one that we just got an email about earlier this week. Grant Lake to June Mountain. It looks like 12 miles.
No, that's the next section.
Is that the next one? I'm scrolling down now. That is steeper in the next section. True. A friend of ours, he shared his Strava. He started at June Mountain and went to Obsidian Dome, that next section. And it was like, I think it was 700 feet in the first mile and like 580 in the second. So that's hard, but like you said, it's just 2 miles. I like to think of it as like, hey, there's like whatever percentage of the total gain for the course over in 2 miles. So cup half full. Anyway,
nice.
Grant Lake to June Mountain, 12 miles, 26 up, 22 down. This looks like you're just doing a big climb and then a big descent. Looks like it could be hard depending on the terrain or surface underfoot. That's a lot of change in a 12-mile stretch.
Yes, it is. A lot of single track through here too as you climb up to the top of Parker Bench. Definitely one of the tougher climbs on the course. I'd say more technical than the next climb, the June Mountain climb, but the biggest climb you will encounter after the first climb of the race up until that point. So, serious climb, take it seriously. But then once you get up to the top, really beautiful, like flowy, single tracky, all the way down to the bottom of the June Basin. And you really are wrapping around Silver Lake and that whole area. And it's like kind of airplane arms, really pretty, like everything that you love about the lakes in the Eastern Sierra. So if you're lucky enough to hit that section when you can see it, really enjoy it. You get down to the June Basin, so where it flattens out at that like 8-mile mark on the course profile, and you are running along the side of the road on the June Lake Loop for a couple miles. I think it's about 2 miles before you head off on the trail again. We are going to have signage at the beginning and end of the section that says that there's a special event ahead, sort of big orange signage for motorists. There's not a big shoulder on the road, and so I'd say just like wouldn't be a bad idea to put your headlamp on, even if it's during the day, or just sort of like make sure you're aware. It is a 35-mile-per-hour zone, so it's not crazy fast. Just sort of be cognizant. Unfortunately, with these 200 milers, we try to stay off the road as much as possible. And I think in this race, we have a pretty low percentage of road, quite a bit of double track, but it's really quiet and kind of remote double track, but not much road. But this is one of the road sections that, just sort of note. And you climb up on the road through the residential area over to June Mountain. And the aid station for June Mountain is at the ticket main lodge for June Mountain. It's a super cute little resort. If you haven't been there in the winter, it's sort of like the family zone compared to Mammoth Mountain and the bigness of that, but it is run by Mammoth Mountain, and they will have patrol staff out there for any medical stuff, and they'll sort of be like keeping an eye on the aid stations in that area as well. But Katie Asmuth is going to be running that aid station, and I believe she is doing waffles and burritos, and so there's a couple different vibes going on depending on what you're feeling at that point. We'll have an indoor sleep station set up kind of away from people in the ticket office. And so that's an option for folks. And it's a huge parking lot, tons of space. So I would say it's the last sleep aid station, but it's also like we're really going to put a lot into giving everyone the resources and the ability to do a like hard reset to hit the last, 30 miles of the course, 40 miles of the course, whatever it is. And just like, it's a good chance to sort of, if you can get there, really like do that reset, take the time, make sure that you fuel up and all that before you head back out. But that'll be a good one. And then you leave June Mountain and you go uphill, like you said, Kevin.
Yeah. So what would you rate this last section at, Grant Lake to June Mountain?
Last section, oh my goodness. I would give it a 4. Because it's a big climb. It's like, one of the bigger climbs of the race, and it's got a fairly it's more technical,
This next one is the one that's apparently email worthy. It's a June Mountain to Obsidian Dome, 11.5 miles, 2,800 feet up and 2,200 feet down.
Yes. I know. When we were going up there the other day after June Mountain, I looked over at Katie and I was like, this is like kind of gnarly. And it's not technical. It's a cat track. It's just like, we got to get up to the side of the mountain so that we can skirt around the side of the mountain and drop back down to June Lake. But it's a grind. And I think it's just better to know that. I always feel like it's good to sort of mentally know, like it's 2 miles pretty much on the dot. It's just like 20 to maybe 30% at the very last couple hundred feet. It's a kick in the ass. You're going straight up, but you just get your poles out. I would recommend leaving the aid station with some food you can munch on and just like hike your way up and throw on some tunes. It's a good place to just sort of get into a groove, but not exaggerating. It is steep. So just know that. But once you get up to the top of the climb, you sort of pass underneath chairlifts on the mountain. You'll probably see some mountain workers looking at you really quizzically as you go by, trying to figure out what you're doing. No, they know you're going to be there, but I think they're all kind of amazed by this whole thing. So you cross under some chairlifts, and then you can see the end of the tunnel. You got like another short little bit of climbing before you level out, and then you start to drop downhill pretty much right away, and you are dropping downhill all the way back down to the June Lakes. basin area from whence you came. We haven't put it in the aid station officially in the markers yet, but we are actually planning on having a water drop there at the bottom of that 4-mile mark out of June Mountain. It's like a trailhead called the Balanced Rock Trailhead. So we're going to try to have some jugs there. And that's just so you don't have to carry quite as much weight going up the climb. So I will make sure I confirm that at the runner briefing so you guys know whether you can rely on it 100%. But that is the plan right now, is to add one more water drop in there just because it's so steep, and that way you don't have to haul it with you if you don't want to. And it's a fairly long section, 11.5 miles. From there, you are on the road again for another short little section. Well, it's 2 miles again, but you're just sort of like kissing the side of the road there before you go back up into the trails. And then you're kind of, making your way slowly back to Mammoth through that section. At least it starts to feel like you're kind of making progress with getting back, right?
Yeah, we're getting close to the finish line here. I mean, that's Obsidian Dome takes us to what, mile 184-ish, 183. Certainly getting there. Cool. This next section is Obsidian Dome to Inyo Crater. 12.5 miles plus 1,100 and down 1,300. I don't have any water. I'm dying. Excuse me. And Peter dropped off. He can't even cover for me.
I was enjoying that, Kevin.
Yeah, like I'm gonna try to fight through it. Maybe we'll edit it out.
I'll talk.
Never happens to me. You go.
It's okay. I'm talking. Okay, Obsidian Dome to Inyo Crater, 12.4 miles. You drop down from Obsidian Dome. It's mostly on Forest Service Road through here, and definitely faster, I would say. And sort of after the previous couple sections, nice to like again be able to let the legs loose a little bit on that double track. I don't know if anyone wants to make a detour, but there's really cool stuff over by the Inyo Craters. It's like really cool green like pool of water. So maybe that's a crew detour. But anyways, yeah, you got a nice kind of descent, and then you climb up like 1,100 feet. So nothing too crazy, all pretty gradual, and just sort of enjoy it. You're in the forest, so depending on when you hit that, you'll be a little bit protected from the elements and the sun, etc. And we can talk about weather in general at the end of this. I realize we haven't gotten to that yet. But yeah, that takes you up to Inyo Craters. And Inyo Craters is again in that like cool, that whole section has that like obsidian rock, right? Like Obsidian Dome actually, like you start that section by going through like this crazy obsidian little like area. And it's really, really cool. So another one, kind of like Crater Mountain, like those little like blips that are just really interesting terrain within the terrain.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm looking at Google images of it now. It looks really cool. Awesome. Well, as I mentioned while I was choking on nothing a second ago, Peter had to drop off, but he will return magically for the outro that we record separately. So I'll carry us to the finish line here. We're getting close. Worth noting, like all these aid stations towards the end here, pretty much mile like 160 to the end, with the exception of the summit, are crew friendly. So that's Grant Lake, June Mountain, Obsidian, Inyo, Minaret Vista, and then of course the finish line. So really nice to have that extra support at the end of the race when things get hard.
Totally. And we intentionally did that. And I would say first year race, you know, Kevin, it's not lost on me that you're doing a first year race, and we're trying to do our best to not have first year race problems. But one of the things I lose sleep about is probably just figuring out exactly like how long the cutoff should be, trying to be fair to everybody. And, you know, it's something that I'm sure we'll dial in. I've gone over it and over it and over it. And so I hope we're like fairly close to giving everybody a fighting shot to get through these sections. But as we get later in the race, I did get more generous. And I think we're down to like a 1.6 or 7 mile per hour pace from aid station to aid station to cover the ground. That's not taking into account the time that you stop. So that's sort of the trade-off there. But like pace wise, we did try to keep it on the like pretty friendly side for just like how fast you need to move to cover the ground. So I would say if anything, it's like don't blow up in the first third, try to move through the glass mountains without doing a lot of damage, but like also be as efficient as you can so you have time. And then as you're getting back to the last third of the race where you get into the big climbs again, you have a bit more of a buffer is like hopefully the plan. And you have more frequent aid station supports, which is, you know, one of my fun challenges of the race as a race director is finding people that want to be out there for 65 hours at an aid station. So be nice to these folks because I'm not doing like shifts where they trade off. It's like, here's the shift. It starts on Saturday night and you're here till Tuesday. I'm always blown away by the people that are willing to come out and be part of this thing. But those aid stations, I would say, expect that there's only probably going to be a few volunteers at. They're going to be sort of leaner. They're going to have everything you need to keep going, but, they are crew accessible as well. So sort of like, stock up, eat real food at June Mountain. You'll get some hot food as you go, but it'll be sort of more of the remote aid station feel and just more frequent access to crew and to aid stations throughout that section. So yeah, that sorry, just a little digression there, but anyways, that takes you up to Inyo Craters.
Awesome. And I'm gonna keep digressing because that's a good segue into, we put out a call out for some questions, and someone asked, as a runner in year one of this race, is there anything we can do to help make the race a success and set the tone for future years? So I know you talked about the quiet zones, obviously being nice and friendly to volunteers and thanking all of them. Is there anything else that you can think of that stands out as like what we as runners can do to like help make this a success year one?
I love that. I think the cool thing about this race, and the more that Tim and I have engaged with the community, is that the more they're sort of getting the vision for it and they can see this becoming like a world-class event. And so what we've been told is just have a safe and successful event in year one, and then we can sort of like build the rocket and off we go. And so I think just some more positive interactions with the community. If your crews are going around, like, don't be afraid to say what you guys are doing or point people towards the live stream in the community, because I think it'd be cool for some of them to check it out. Supporting the local businesses. This is shoulder season for the whole area. And so that's like a really cool thing, is that all of us coming in and going to the gas stations or going to the little mom and pop shops, it's like there's no chains up there. So wherever you go, you're going to support the locals. And I think that really goes a long way. And so I think everyone's really excited to have this coming. And I think, just like you said, not yelling in the middle of the night, not trying to wake up the whole town as you come through, that's going to go a long ways. But yeah, and we're such a good crew of people. Like, I truly love the trail community, and that's why we're building this race, is to give people more of this style of just like family adventure and the ability to come together. So I have full faith that everyone coming out to run our event is going to be part of that spirit.
Awesome. Love it. And yeah, I saw that Mountain Outpost is going to do the live streaming, so that will be cool to follow. So if you're listening to this race because you're curious about it, you're not going to be out there this year, you can follow along on Mountain Outpost on YouTube. Obviously, we love those guys over there. We did a big Cocodona series with them, and you can bet that if there is self-service on the course, I will be in the stream while running it. So pop in and say hi to me, please. I'll take it.
Yes.
All right. Let's get back to, we're almost at the finish line here. So Inyo Craters to Minaret Vista. This is 1,200 feet of up, barely any down. Looks like it's 6.3.5 miles. I'm guessing that's a typo. I'm trying to look at the other chart.
Yeah, which one is it?
Yeah.
I'll fix it while we're doing this in real time.
It's supposed to be 6.35, it looks like.
Okay, there we go.
It looks like it's just a pretty steady climb on a Forest Service road. I'm guessing this is obviously a climb late in the race, so hard, but doesn't look too bad to me.
I would say think of the section from Inyo Crater to the summit as all one climb, broken up with an aid station at Minaret Vista, if that helps. And so this is all part of that sort of push up to the summit for your last big climb of the race. But because we are so late in the race, because we're going up to altitude again, having the aid station at Minaret Vista is our way of just being like, hey, one more shot to just sort of like get you up there. Because otherwise it's a tough one. We know going back up to 11,000 feet that late in the race, like you're almost at 200 miles at that point. So yeah, just slow, gradual climb. You're on trails and you are in the forest, lots of pines, beautiful. You come out of that towards Minaret Vista and you have the like classic skyline. You've got the minarets right in front of you. They're like really pointy and dramatic. The aid station at Minaret Vista, and this is worth noting for crews and for runners, it is not quite at the lookout. So there's like a paved like lookout you can go up to, and there's a washroom there if anyone needs it. That's where the bathroom would be. We're not hauling a porta potty up to that one. But the actual aid station is where the pin is on the map, and it's about 400, 500 feet away from the lookout on the trail. And the reason for that is because that can get quite windy through that section. It acts like a bit of a wind tunnel. And we didn't want to have volunteers sitting in a wind tunnel for 65 hours. And so the aid station sort of set back in the forest a little bit just before you hit that lookout. We're asking crews to sort of park along the road leading up to the lookout so you don't block the entire lookout, because people do come up and use it and take a look. And also no crewing out of vehicles for that one. We want you to go into the aid station and crew from that one. It's not a sleep station, so I don't think you should view that one as like I'm going to take a giant nap. This is I need some crew support to get up to the summit before I go down. Like, eye on the prize, just sort of like use your crew to get refueled and all that. But like, this is sort of an aid station. We're just like putting it there to try to give you guys support, but it's not like a camp out for 3 hours here type of thing.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. So it's like you said, it's sort of the single climb broken into two. So this next section is just a continuation of that climb. Looks like it gets a little steeper towards the end, which is no surprise, heading up to your second summit of Mammoth Mountain. So Minaret Vista to Summit 2 is almost 6 miles, 2,000 feet of up, just a couple hundred feet of down. You're over the 200 mile, well over the 200 mile mark when you get to the top of the summit, about 207, 208. And I think it's all downhill from there. So we can just combine these next two sections. Then you're doing the summit, back to the village, 7 or so miles, all downhill. With this approach up to summit number 2 and the descent off summit number 2, what's different from the climb that they did years ago?
So you don't go up the Dragon's Back. You go up the Mammoth Mountain hiking trail to the top. At least, you know what? I have to admit, I'm not entirely sure if you pop onto the Dragon's Back for the last little bit. I actually think you pop onto the Dragon's Back for like the last mile of it. But it's just sort of like a long grind up to the top. And then once you get up there, you're coming down a different route than you went up. You're not coming down the hiking trail. You're coming down the skid marks trail, and then the Lincoln Express, which sort of levels out a little bit. So skid marks is steeper and definitely kind of like right off the top of the mountain. You're just sort of like cat trail down, and then it sort of levels off and it's a little bit more like rolling from there. And then you hit the downtown trail, and that's really rolling, and that's really fun. And that's just like one of the cruiser mountain bike trails around town. And so you just like, yeah, little rollers into town. It should feel really good. It's really soft terrain in there, that kind of spongy, piney terrain. So it's a really nice way to finish the race. And hopefully it's a chance for you to sort of reflect on the whole thing and soak it all in as you come down. And again, we've tried to build in enough time from the cutoff so that you don't have to rip it if your quads are like dying, you know? So hopefully that's not the section where someone is having to destroy themselves to hit the final cutoff. And again, like, you know, going back to what you guys can do to make the race a success, we want to hear from your perspective after the race, like at any point, like what you think, how we can improve, how we can do better. I feel like, you know, we're really trying to make this the best it can be. So no feedback is bad feedback, and we want to hear it all, and we want to learn, and we want to grow. Part of like you guys having grace for us is also us just like really being honest and transparent about every aspect of this and wanting to just create a really cool event. So, which I think we are. I'm really, really proud of it and really stoked on it as it's coming together. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm so excited. It's been really cool as we're looking at this runner's manual. Like I have it open the whole time during this episode and seeing all the people pop in and out, because you can see there's like anonymous people viewing it at all times. So people are excited. They are doing their work,
doing their homework,
getting prepped. I can't thank you enough for coming on. I think this is really going to help people who are running it this year, people who are curious in future years. Let's do 2 more quick topics that we got a lot of questions about. Before I let you go, we touched a little bit on cell phone service in the Glass Mountains. How would you say overall cell phone service? And this is not just because I want to be on the live stream the whole time, but like cell service,
Kevin,
like,
sure.
yeah, you know, like on a scale of Bigfoot where you don't have it at all to Cocodona where you have it for like 90+%, like how would you say this course is for cell service?
Definitely closer to Cocodona. I would say probably 80 to 85% of the time you'll have cell phone coverage. If you lose it in the Glass Mountains, you won't lose it for too long. Some of these stations out there that don't have coverage, you do like a mile down the road. And so it's the sort of thing where like as you're running it, you're just going to kind of come in and out of cell phone coverage through there. So from that perspective, that's something that Tim and I are really stoked on. Obviously, from a safety standpoint, it's nice to just be able to keep tabs on everyone a little bit more. But yeah, it's 80-85%, somewhere in there.
Nice. And then, you know, we're about 10 days out. We can see the weather forecast. We can see what it is supposed to be like for now. That could very much change. But can you just speak to a little bit of like historical weather this time of year in the Eastern Sierra? I know you've gotten a lot of questions about your extensive mandatory gear list. I can say that having done a bunch of these, I'm almost always glad I'm carrying something versus not carrying it. especially once you're like 50 miles in, the weight of your pack is just what it is. Like you're moving slower anyway. Like it's just better to have these things. I've been in some situations where I've been very cold and wish I had more clothing. So I would say carry more. If you're on the fence, bring it. But yeah, what can we see about weather and what can we expect?
Yeah, I mean, I think for weather, looking at not just the weather at the bottom, but the weather at the top, Mammoth Mountain has their mountain report, and you can see the summit weather. And that's just a really good way to see some of the higher elevation weather and the wind, especially because that can be something that really whips up. As we get closer, we'll have a better idea of like precipitation. I know for Trailfest this weekend, there's definitely a chance of like precip, maybe even snow, maybe a bit of lightning. Like these are things that happen in the mountains. And so as far as the mammoth goes, it'll just be something we look at next week and sort of have to adjust for. Right now, it's looking fairly dry, but it's also looking quite cool at night. I think it's sort of saying like down to 30s at night and then up to like maybe low to mid 60s during the day at your sort of like 8,100 foot elevation type of thing. I would say it often feels cooler in the Eastern Sierra area than the temperature indicates. And so I'd say like running in a sun shirt, like most of the time, or long sleeves, like a lightweight long sleeve, and then being able to throw on a windbreaker, being able to, like, I think layers are king here. And that's why the mandatory gear looks kind of gnarly, but a lot of it's like have gloves, have a buff, have the ability to put on a layer, take off a layer, and that'll solve a lot of problems. I mean, I think even looking at Run Rabbit Run this last weekend and how many people were derailed by cold weather, if you put gloves on earlier, your hands will still move and then you can drink and you can do things. And it's sort of like troubleshooting these things. And so, yeah, I've been at 200s where it snowed in September. It's definitely possible. We had some hail on the course a couple weeks ago, just out of nowhere for an hour. And so I understand not wanting to carry more gear, and we've tried to sort of find a compromise. Like I did say, if you don't want to carry pants during the day, you don't have to, but you do have to have a waterproof jacket with you. And so it's like at least you can keep your core warm. And this is not about trying to make your packs heavier. This is about trying to make sure you're safe and you can get to the next aid station and that your gear isn't sitting in a drop bag 2 aid stations away when you need it. And so I think it's just, yeah, it's shoulder season in the mountains. We did look at the historical data for the area before we set the race weekend. And historically, in the 20-year forecast, land in this kind of cool sweet spot before the snow really comes in October. Like a few weeks later is when they start to get more storm systems that come through. And then also trying to like balance that with the tail end of the fire season. And so it's always a balancing act, but so far we're threading the needle. But I think just sort of being aware, like end of September in the Eastern Sierra, you got to treat this differently. It's not a race in June. There's definitely just more potential for weather to change faster and be colder.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I was out pacing at Run Rabbit this past weekend. I wore
So
pants. I never wear pants on like running or hiking or pacing. So I wore pants and I gave my runner my buff and my gloves. So yeah, I think be prepared is the
Yeah. And for crews, be warm. Like bring lots of layers, bring cozy jackets, bring a sleeping bag you can curl up in at an aid station and hang out. Like don't suffer for nothing. Just bring extra layers and I think just sort of going into it with an attitude of this is a mountain race.
Yep. Awesome. Well, cool. Anything else? Any closing notes for our runners who are going to be about a week or so out when they get this episode?
I can tease some of the swag and fun stuff there.
Yeah.
So Craft is our title sponsor, which we're really grateful for. So they're doing all the clothing, and you're going to get a really sweet windbreaker as part of your clothing with like a custom branded Mammoth thing, which we're really excited about. And then Fractal is making us these really sweet adventure hats, and it's like a bucket hat with the flap on the back, and those are like done in a lightweight, like breathable Gore-Tex, and so they're kind of a really versatile hat, which I'm genuinely like, yeah, that's a hat I would definitely get lots of mileage out of. And then Nomadix, which they make like puffy blankets and towels. They're giving everyone like a quick drying towel that's custom branded with the Mammoth. We've got bear butt wipes. They're giving everyone we're going to have the bear butt wipes at all the aid stations actually out on course. And they're one of our sponsors. Trying to think. It's just, year one, it's really, really cool how many people are just like, hey, I want to be involved. Like Mountain Outpost during the live stream. It's actually the first 200-mile live stream they've done that's not Cocodona, which is funny because we've come to associate them with all these live streams. But I think 200 milers are a different beast, and especially a course that they don't know as well. So it's been fun having lots of conversations with Jamil and Zach and the team, and just like getting them familiar on the course and where the drones can go and where they can access. And it's like its own sort of challenge to figure out how to tell the story of the race. And so we're really excited about that. And just like, I think for everyone that's watching your race, it really gives them a better sense of sort of what you're doing. So that was really important to Tim and I. And they are also doing our buckles, and it's a custom metal buckle with a wood inlay with the Mammoth icon in it that I think looks pretty sweet. And they're doing our podium awards as well. Yeah, just lots of collaboration, lots of amazing, talented people that are all pitching in to make this thing possible. There is a shakeout run that Craft is hosting the 25th, the morning before the race, 9 a.m. at Footloose Sports, which is just down the street from the village. So come be part of that if you're around town. Mandatory runner briefing at 5:30 p.m. in the village, and we'll go through the trackers and all that stuff. And then again in the morning before the race, which starts at 8 a.m. If you don't know that, you should probably do a bit more research into the race, but just make sure you come and pick up your tracker. Obviously mandatory as well. You pick that up between 6 a.m. and 8 a.m. and we'll also have coffee and some pastries and stuff for everyone before you start out. And I will also say we're going to have the live stream streamed on a big screen in the plaza in the village. So during the race, encourage your crew, if they're looking for somewhere to hang out and just like be able to follow the race, grab some food, whatever, that's a good zone to just sort of be in. We're not going to have any like food trucks or stuff there, but it is just like a place to be able to check in with other crews to follow the live stream. And so excited about that as well. So we're first year, but we're coming in hot, guys. We're doing our best to cover all the bases. It's wild. It's really, really cool to see it all come together. 200 miles is a long way to run, and it's a long way to plan for. And it's a great group of people that are going to be out there. And every single volunteer I've had contact with, and they're all really excited to be part of your adventure. And I think our ratio of volunteers to runners is like over 1-to-1. Really just cool. It like feels like kind of a family thing for year one. So to all of you guys that are part of our first year, I feel like that's always going to be like a little story to tell, hopefully a good story to tell. And we are really honored that you chose to spend your time with us. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, cool. I'll certainly be at the shakeout run on Thursday.
Sweet.
I'll hope to see some listeners there. We'll have distance to empty swag with us. We should have reached out and gotten stickers. We've done that for a bunch of other 200s, but you get late into the season and you get lazy, I think. At least I do. I don't know.
Next year, Kevin. Next year.
I'll be all over it next year. I'm sorry I didn't do that for myself. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and can't wait to see you in a week or so here.
Thank you. Safe travels and happy tapering, everybody.
All right. Well, that was a really good exercise for me. I certainly feel like I have a better sense of like the layout of the course and the flow of the course and the sections a little bit. I'm not exaggerating when I say I really haven't looked much into this race. It's been exciting to kind of be a little more nonchalant and just know that, hey, it's going to be an awesome experience. So I'm really glad we got to do that with Hilary. And yeah,
that was kind of my approach for Monster. So all these course changes, they shouldn't have affected you, right?
Yeah, I was just rolling with the punches. And so Peter, what are your predictions for, let's see, who do we got running this? Let's see. I want time predictions for me, Melanie, Gabe Peterson, and Chad Bruce. Putting you on the spot here. We didn't prep Peter for this.
So it's 214 miles, 31,000 feet of gain, kind of runnable, but high in altitude. Let's see. A good time at Tahoe is what, like 60 to 70 hours? Okay. But it's a little long.
Are you asking me, or
No,
are you thinking out loud?
Both. I'm going to say, for you, I'll say 65 hours. For Melanie, I'll say 75 hours. I think Chad Bruce will probably be in the middle of that somehow. I'll say like 70, 72. And I don't know, Gabe, somewhere in there too. I don't know, high 70s, 80.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you got closest to Chad's goal.
Okay.
You greatly insulted me and Melanie.
Did I?
And I'm not sure what Gabe's goal is. No, not insult. But we'll see. I mean, 65 would be realistic for me. I think I'm gonna at least aim for sub 60. Like I'm trying to think of like when I get to like Fort Tuttle at Cocodona, which is like 213 miles. And I have done that in under 60 hours. I've also done it in over 60 hours. So I'm kind of shooting for that. We'll see what happens. I think Chad and Melanie are both looking at sub 70. And I think Gabe did mention he was thinking like 72 hours, like 3 days. So we'll see. But you're probably more accurate than any of us because you're always a little slower than you think you're going to be. So you were kind of like on the slower end of everyone's goal. So I like it.
It's an inaugural race. No one's really put it all together before. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
No, it's going to be an
wrong,
adventure.
and I hope all of you are faster.
I put you on the spot. I'm sorry. You're going to get hate mail. Oh man. Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks for listening to our course preview episode. We do these for all the major tours. If you are a new listener, please give us a subscribe on Spotify and Apple. Leave us a review if you like this episode. It really helps us grow. We are a podcast fully focused on the 200 plus mile distance. We're talk to, athletes who are doing really cool things in this space, in this distance. We talk to sports professionals who can give like tangible advice on the distance and apply it to it. So we appreciate you being here. And Peter, should we get into some of our usual categories?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you want to switch gears on us?
I was about to let's get deep, but I can always switch gears. So here's a bit of a poetic thing about podcasting. From my book, Switch Gears, Puke, Rally, and Repeat. I'm the author. It says it right here, but I don't remember writing it. So lessons learned, the impact of sharing your journey. The beauty of sharing your journey, where vulnerability meets the treadmill of life, and what emerges is a blend of inspiration, absurdity, and a decent dose of humility. When Kevin and I kicked off Distance to Empty, I was gripped by one overarching thought. Connecting with others involved a willingness to strip away the veil, to present not just shiny accomplishments, but the awkward stumbles and hilariously misguided detours we encountered along the way. Little did I realize how profoundly sharing my experiences would reshape my relationship with running and the world beyond.
Peter, that's beautiful.
It is.
That is so poetic. I'm so impressed and blown away by your writing. What is the title of the book? Sorry, how could I forget?
Switch Gears, Puke, Rally, Repeat.
Awesome. Well, you will not find that on a bookseller shelf near you, but you can get tidbits of it here every week.
Well, eventually people will have the whole thing.
Yeah. How do you keep track? Do you like highlight or mark off, or are you just winging it?
Mine like a steel trap.
I don't know if that's true. All right. And now for our favorite category. Let's Get Deep is a card game for couples that Peter and I play on the podcast for your enjoyment. There are 3 categories: Icebreaker, Deep, and Deeper. And Peter, I'll kick you off with your Icebreaker. What was your first impression of me?
I think I was impressed by you because you crushed the rim to rim to rim when I failed spectacularly. So, yeah, impressed.
If you look at it as you doing a rim to rim, then you succeeded.
I did, yeah. I was doing couch to rim to rim to rim, though. So, all right, your Icebreaker. What TV show was canceled way too soon?
Ooh, that's a good question. Huge fan of The Office, as many know. Listen to it every night, but I don't think that was canceled too soon. I think that was perfect. I'm trying to think of like a show that I really enjoyed that only had a season or 2 or didn't get picked up anymore. I could have used, Parks and Rec 2 was really perfect with how long it went on for. I would say Ted Lasso, but I think it is coming back.
It is coming back.
It is coming back. So you can't even say that because Ted Lasso was so good. And you could make the argument that it was time. I think I'm just going to pivot because I can't think of one and just express general frustration on how long it takes to come out with subsequent seasons these days. Like waiting on like the next House of the Dragon, the next, like I don't even remember the shows I love because there's so many years in between. Stranger Things. So I'm pivoting on your Icebreaker and just complaining about how long it takes to create art these days.
Yeah, I agree with you. Like these shows like Stranger Things or Wednesday is like they have these child actors that are like growing up at crazy amounts between seasons.
Yeah. And then I have to watch like an hour long like YouTube like recap just because I don't remember what happened 3 years ago in season 3. It's just like I have too much content and too far between them. Anyway. All right. Deep for you. Which of our friends have you known the longest, and how do you think your friendship has changed with them over the years?
Probably Gabe Peterson. I think we've known each other probably since like 2013 or 2014. Yeah, and we changed sports together. So we started in triathlon. Yeah, we both got into ultra running. I think I was first, but yeah, 2015, 2016 is when we both switched. And yeah, it's just been a long journey. We both got trailers. We've got on the same trajectory.
And now here you are, like 13 years later, and insulting his soon-to-be Mammoth time. And
You put me on the spot.
That reminds me, you said Iron Man. Did you remember that tattoo picture I sent you the other day?
I do.
So I send Peter Iron Man tattoo pictures when I see them because he loves Iron Man, and that was a unique one. The person's name was Cam, and he had a CA in front of the I am to make it a Cam.
I've never seen that one before.
You should do there's no M in your name, so you can't really do it. Well, all right. Moving on.
You're deep. What's the worst physical sensation?
Achilles tendinopathy, which is something I've been struggling with for about 5 months now, maybe 6 months. Yeah, that's pretty bad. I'll go with when people use like a nail file, like to file their nails. I can't be present when that's happening. Like the noise or feeling of that, like I can't do it.
I agree with that. There's something called misophonia. I for sure have it, and that you probably have it too, if that bugs you.
Yeah. All right. Deeper for you. What would be a good tradition for your friend group to have? It's not really a deeper. I feel like that's more of a deep, but it says deeper.
We only had one buckle party, but that was fun. I feel like we should have a buckle parties more frequently.
It would be cool to have a buckle party every year. Yeah. Maybe Gabe Peterson needs to plan another buckle party. Man, Gabe's featured heavily in this Mammoth preview.
Yeah, I agree with that. More buckle parties. And then you're deeper. What is something you're still angry about?
What is something I'm still angry about? Oh, man. I mean, I don't think I hold on to anything too terribly. There's certainly times in races where I wish I had just executed differently or not let my emotions or lack of emotion regulation get in the way. I'm trying to think of a specific thing that I'm still angry about. Let's see, is there anything I'm mad at Peter for? See, I can't think of anything. You're perfect. Nothing. I'm not angry. I'm happy.
That's good. That's the right mentality for Mammoth.
Yeah. I'm sure I'll be angry about something out there. Just give me a week.
The sheepdogs.
Well, not being able to pet the sheepdogs it's going to be tough, but I'll survive. I'll probably, I'll be able to ignore them. Cool. Well, let's at the top of the episode we mentioned our sponsors, John G and Mount to Coast. I'm excited to be decked out in both for Mammoth 200. I'll be wearing the John G Sun Chaser shirt the whole time. I'll be wearing the AFO shorts. For shoes, I'm going to be, I think, starting in the T1s and probably transitioning to the H1s at some point. The H1s come out very soon, probably a couple of weeks from this episode airing. They're the hybrid shoe. I just want to kind of get my eyes on the course because I know some of the trails in the Sierra can be pretty rugged, and I want to make sure the T1's a much more aggressive shoe with traction. But yeah, I'm excited to be wearing both those. I've been doing a lot of my training in the H1s and the T1s, and I think the H1s from a fit perspective are just one of the best shoes I've ever put on my foot. Check those out. You can use code DISTANCE for 10% off. And if you send us a proof of using that code, take a screenshot, send it to us on Instagram, email it to us at distancetoemptypod@gmail.com. We will shoot you out a free hat or shirt. We've got some pretty sweet swag. The new hats, well, not new extra hats. They're the same Distance to Empty hat. It just came today, actually. So fresh restock. I'll be heading to the UPS store later to ship a bunch of those out. So yeah, if you purchase Distance to Empty, if you purchase Mount to Coast and use the code DISTANCE, we'll send you a Distance to Empty hat or shirt. Same goes for John G. It's a little more, it's the same code, DISTANCE for 10% off at johng.com. And we'll send you a hat or shirt there. There'll be a post screen survey that pops up where you can say, how'd you hear about John G? You select podcast, a list of the podcasts they support pop up. You can select Distance to Empty. Send us a screenshot of that screen and we will hook you up with a free hat or shirt. And John G's coming out with a bunch of fall stuff right now. I just got their Atlas pants that I wore pacing at Run Rabbit Run, and I just love a good pant that has the zip halfway up that you can take off so easily without taking your shoes off. So those will be my go-to pants for Mammoth, just because they can go on and off so easy.
So those are more true technical pants, not lounging pants.
Yeah, I mean they're really comfy. I lounged in them the first time I wore them, and then I packed them for Run Rabbit. But Yeah, unlike the transit pants where you could run in those, but those are more like if I was going, just hanging out, I'd wear those. The Atlas pants are like a more technical pant. Yeah. So yeah, those are our sponsors. You can support us by supporting them. We also have a Patreon if you're looking for more 200 content. We got bonus episodes. We got an awesome Discord where people get a bunch of engagement and questions answered, and we can just chat about the distance and the sport. We have a few different offerings there. Check out our show notes to see the different subscriptions we have. That is the ultimate way to support us. We'd love to hear from you and have you in there. Yeah. Anything else, Peter? What closing Mammoth thoughts do you have?
Well, I think your shoe choice is correct. There's that crazy descent right away. So that's smart. And it seems like there was some runnable stretches later in the race. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to wear the H1. I just want to see the course before because it's light traction, and I prefer, especially, I don't want to slip it early, and those T1s are, they're good for anything. Cool. Well, good luck everyone running Mammoth. Good luck to everyone who's thinking about running Mammoth in the future. And if you have any questions or anything, reach out. Thanks for listening.